In episode 5, after leaving Rosemary, John goes to a local diner. Now, you've basically got 6 characters in this episode. Bette, the waitress, who is upbeat, energetic, but also looks pretty damn tired. Her big dream, though, is to become a successful writer. She thought she was going to have more time to write when her son went off to college, but it really hasn't been the case. She has a big crush on the owner/cook, Marsh, but he's pretty short with her anytime she talks to him. And she's had Marsh over a couple of times to eat dinner, but nothing's really come of the relationship. Then you've got Judy. She just broke up with her girlfriend, Donna. Maybe. They had a big fight, and Judy hasn't heard from Donna since. So she's kind of freaking out a little bit, really stressed out. You've got Mark. He's young, interviewing at Vanguard, and he's pretty stressed out as well because he's just nervous about his job interview. And then finally you have Gary and his wife, Kate, who is the CEO of Vanguard. Gary works for her. They both were regulars at the diner, and they were introduced by Bette. So she looks at them like they're her crowning achievement. They're celebrating their 5-year wedding anniversary that day, and while they seem happy on the outside, you can tell that their relationship is a little bit fractured. Like when she orders 2 spinach salads for the table, but Gary actually wants a burger. And he knows that he's going to get crap from her if he ends up ordering what he wants. John watches everybody interact with each other, and all he sees is a bunch of lies. He wants to fix the world, which means getting rid of the lies. So he starts using the ruby to do that. Next thing you know, the couple starts fighting. Gary starts pushing back on the fact that he has no authority, and he gets pushed around by Kate all the damn time. Then you've got Judy, who was pretty rude to Mark from the get-go, but Mark was nice enough. Now with the power of the ruby, he pushes back a little bit. Like when Judy mentions how she can't get in touch with her girlfriend, Mark says that's because she doesn't want to talk to you. It pisses off Judy so much that she tries to leave the diner, but she can't. She just turns right back around, which is a trend. Everyone is basically trapped in the diner. Even Gary and his wife, when they get up to leave, they just stop at the door, turn around, and act like they're entering it for the first time. Probably the most powerful truth moment is with Marsh and Bette. Bette finally finds out why Marsh hasn't really returned her romantic advances. She invites Marsh over for dinner and then says maybe afterwards we can get in my bed. But that's when he says that he doesn't want to do that. Because the only reason he comes over for dinner is he wants somebody else cooking for him for once. And then he waits for her to fall asleep on the couch and he goes upstairs and has sex with her son, who, by the way, is 21. So it's not like this is a pedophile thing. But that comes as a really big surprise to Bette. Then John turns it up a notch. Gary overhears the commotion in the kitchen, so he heads in there and he starts talking to Marsh. Turns out Gary isn't the most loyal husband in the world because his wife frustrates the hell out of him. And as he tells Marsh, every once in a while, you just kind of want it sucked, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah, Marsh definitely knows what you're saying, Gary, and he is more than willing. So Marsh ends up going down on Gary. While on the outside in the diner, Bette had introduced Mark to the CEO of Vanguard. She decided to just hold the interview right then and there. But the interview wasn't a normal interview. It goes into who Mark is, and then it turns into flirtation, and then it turns into them having full-on sex in the diner. And then finally, Judy and Bette hooked up. But then suddenly all of this turns really dark when Gary comes out and sees Mark hooking up with his wife. He just completely forgets the fact that he got sucked off by a guy a mere 10 seconds ago. He goes into a fit of rage and starts attacking Mark, and Mark ends up stabbing him in the neck out of self-defense. And this isn't the only violence that's occurring, because John, with the help of the ruby, isn't just affecting the diner, he's affecting the world. The newscast says there's a fit of violence going on worldwide. And that's when Bette realizes that everything had changed when John entered the diner. She thought when he said he wanted to change the world, he was just kind of saying that. But now she sees that he is in fact changing the world, but it's not for the better. And John points out, all I did was take away the lies. This is who you people really are. When Mark points out that he didn't want to kill Gary, John says, well, yeah, you did. Because if you didn't, you would have died. For you a world where you didn't have to suffer in it. But it appears that you actually enjoy your suffering. And then with the power of the ruby, they all start self-mutilation. And when it ends, everyone's dead except for Bette. And she asks John, why did you do this? How is this making the world better? And he tells her that you're looking at this with your eyes. You need to close your eyes and then you'll see it. So she does that. She stabs herself in the eyes, but she starts telling John exactly what she sees, saying, you come from dust. You walk the dust. You go back to dust. But it's not really Judy talking. It's actually the Fates. And one of the things that they tell him is, you have stolen the power of dreams, and you will take all of it. In fact, you will crush the Dream Lord's life in your hands. And that is when, through the door, Dream walks in. Dream tells him that he has to give back the ruby because all of this madness that he started, the ruby wasn't made for that. You need to return it to me so I can repair all the damage you've done. John doesn't want to give it up, though, and Morpheus explains to him that it's actually harming him, and it's harming the world. John thinks of it like he is revealing the truth, but Dream explains, no, the truth is that all of these people have dreams, like Bet had dreams of being a writer. Gary had dreams of being something and proving his father wrong. You took that from them. That ruby is hurting you. It's got too much of my power in it, and it stole even more when I tried to use it. And that's when John says, well, if I steal the rest of your powers, then I become the King of Dreams. And Dream explains that if he's going to rob a Dream Lord of his powers, he's going to do it in his realm, the realm of dreams. So he puts John in there, and he puts him in a really tough situation. At first, he's about to make out with his mother back at the Burgess household, but then he's back in the insane asylum, and his mother is choking him. Although when John realizes none of this is real, it's all fake, suddenly he's in Dream's castle, and with the power of the ruby, he starts destroying it. When Morpheus eventually shows up, he starts destroying him as well. The ruby starts sucking up Morpheus until there's nothing left. And at that moment, John thinks he'd won. So he decides to crush the ruby. But in reality, he lost. Because all of that was a dream, except for the fact that he crushed the ruby. That actually happened. And when he destroyed the ruby, he released the power inside of it. So Morpheus has all of his powers back. He could kill John, but instead, he puts him back in the mental institution, and he has him just sleep. When he walks out of the diner, he's greeted by Matthew, and the world is pretty messed up. I mean, it looks like the purge took place. And that's because it basically did. Thanks to the ruby's power, John ended up opening up a bunch of wounds, showing people the truth. But the truth has consequences, and the consequences were a bunch of violence and a bunch of new wounds. Now, Dream has to start rebuilding the world, making it as it was. He'll start doing most of the heavy lifting the next day, but for the time being, he tells Matthew, at least tonight, the world will sleep well. But Dream wasn't the only one overhearing this conversation, because so was his sibling, Desire. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry, it'll be up in a day or two.